right, folks, what is going on? It's your boy, Mad Hatter. It's the Mad Hatter Show podcast, and I'm here with this incredible gentleman, the king of the Black Expo, here in the good H-Town, Jerome Love. No hand applause because we don't got no sound effects, but you hear him without even hearing him. We have already talked about some great stuff. I don't know how to recreate that magic, as they say. So let me start here because I know you have your own podcast, which is called
The Black Money Tree Podcast.
So I'm going to start talking about money first, and we're going to end it on Black Expo because this is a big deal that you do every year here in Houston. Why is it, and I don't mean to hit you with the hard ones first, but I know you do your podcast with purpose as it relates to money.
Yeah.
Why do we as people that look like me and you, why is it still that we seem to be, no, not that we seem, we're still behind the majority of the people in this nation when it comes to home ownership, money and savings, money if we're in rental property, et cetera, entrepreneurship, all that stuff. What is it us? Or is the man's foot on our neck so bad we just can't come out of it? Because I'm thinking after Martin Luther King, we should have been good a couple of years after that.
Well, there's a book by Dorothy Brown called The Whiteness of Wealth. And it's a really powerful book.
Never heard this book. I got to get this.
It discusses how the systems of this country were created to benefit certain groups. But when you dig a little bit deeper, it really wasn't about ethnicity. It was about economics. So though it was the systems were created to help those with keep it and those without to keep them without. So if you kind of start to educate yourself and learn kind of the systems and tax laws and all these types of things, I think it will help you out. There's another book I called The Grunch of Giants by R. Buckminster Fuller.
Okay, well, we need to do we're going to put these books up there. We're going to show them.
What he talks about, he calls like the power brokers in our country, in our world, in our nation, he calls them the giants. And ultimately, he says they create the rules, if you will, of the society. So any rule that they create is going to benefit them.
Absolutely.
So at some point, you got to get yourself in a position where you can create some rules. The last book I'll mention, Mayor for Life, Marion Barry. He talked, DC.
Okay.
He talked about when he was fighting with Martin Luther King and, on the civil rights side. According to him, this is his book.
Absolutely.
He was one of the first to switch over, i.e. stop fighting the power and said, no, I'm going to become part of the power. Because if I become part of the power, I can use that power to help my community. So those are three good books that will answer that. And the last, I'm going to directly answer your question now because I went way around to answer it.
No, but they need to read too. I like that you put that in there. Some books that they need to pick up. I love that. So,
but ultimately you ask, why are we so far behind? And I think it's ultimately because of the way we think. I wrote an article for Black Enterprise. It was called Image or Economics. And what I argued is that most of us say we want wealth and we want success, but we're settling for the image. And the way our society has created it, we define success by a certain look. And we have classes, middle class, upper class, lower class. Well, my daddy was an aircraft mechanic, but he saved every dollar he had, worked on his own car, wasn't buying the new J's. I was the youngest, so I had hand-me-downs until I was a senior in high school when I got a job and could buy my own clothes. I remember I wear glasses, and you couldn't get no girls with these big old Coke bottle glasses. So I wanted contacts. My daddy wouldn't buy me contacts. I had to get a job and get my contacts or whatnot. He paid for me to go to college, my brother to go to college, my sister to go to college out for cash. He died owning 2 houses cash, all of his cars cash, and he had money in the bank. But people would have said he was low class because he was a mechanic. And he didn't have the image.
Right. Of what we think wealth is in this country.
Another example I'll give you, I do real estate. So and I have construction. So a lot of my contractors, I know how much I pay them, plumbing and framers and this, that, and the other. One of them in particular, he has a son who's now going to college. And he was telling me, no, yeah, I don't want to work in the sun. I want to get a good job and this, that. And my mind was kind of like, I get not wanting to do physical labor, but your daddy making $300,000 a year, and you'd rather make 60, 70 because
you
looking
look
good because it's air conditioning, you got a button up shirt. So we kind of got to think through what really success looks like and how we define it.
Let me ask you this then. I love all the points that you made. How do you start to change something that this society that we live in has continued to perpetuate for decades? How do you change that?
Well, at the end of the day, you can't change other people. You can only change yourself. And I think that ultimately you got to just grow and you got to experience things. And then you kind of got to have a little money and then realize, okay, what next? And then realize, okay, it really ain't about how much money you have. Certainly you want money. And if you have money, then you have the ability to help others. You have the ability to change your community. But you realize that ultimately, what's the point of having money if you don't have nobody to spend it on or to help with, or a big house if no one lives there with you? We're in a community. It's all about helping others. That's the way I look at it and the way I think about it.
Let's go back. I'm glad you mentioned your family. While you were going through what you were going through with your dad, at any point in time, were you hurt by his decisions as a child because he allowed you to wear those Coke bottle glasses and he wouldn't get you the new J's? He decided that that was not the route he was going to go, no matter what you might have thought or how you would have felt. Did you hold or harbor any bad or feelings towards your father because of those decisions?
At the time, certainly not now. Now I'm happy.
Totally
I appreciate it, and I try to replicate every single thing that my daddy did. I remember one time we were at a family get together. And me and my brothers, we were all talking about, well, mama did this and daddy, I ain't going to do this. And we was all talking about how we were going to do stuff differently with our kids. And my mentor, one of my cousins, he's like that old OG that just give you good wisdom. And he said, okay, let me ask y'all a question. He said, are you a sound individual? Yeah. Are you successful? Well, yeah. Are you happy with the person you are? Yeah. Would you be upset if your children turned out exactly like you? And I said, no, I want my kids to be like me. He said, well, don't you realize you are the way you are because of the process that you went through? So when you try to change the process, your daddy whoop you, but you ain't going to whoop your kids, you're changing the result. You really don't know what the result is going to be. Now, certainly you can always improve upon anything.
Yeah.
But after that just made too much sense. I just realized that the reason I manage my money the way I manage it is because my daddy made me manage it. The reason I was able to get ahead, let's just say out of college, I started my first business when I was 19. I never really had a real job. Most of my...
You always say that you never had a real job.
I never had the 9 to 5 and the steady check. I don't know what it is to get a check on the 1st and the 15th. I've never had that in my life.
Wow.
So
that's
most
pretty
of
powerful.
my
That's
friends...
a pretty powerful statement. So you've been an entrepreneur basically your whole life. You've always found a way for the ends to meet.
Yeah. It's just that's been my life. I did an internship one summer when I was in college. I was working from 7 to 7, and I remember every day get up at 6 in the morning, get to work at 7, get off at 7, get home at 7:45, 8:30 you eat dinner, 9:30 you so tired you just go to bed, wake up, do the same thing over and over and over. And I said, this cannot be God's will for my life. It's not. It cannot be. And that made me say...
That's a heck of a statement. I love it.
And I said, I'm going to start my own business. Now, it was kind of ignorant at the time because I just felt if I start my own business, I can control my own agenda and my schedule. And you can. But if you have a whole bunch of free time, then you're probably not going to be making a lot of money or building your business. So I didn't really understand everything I was getting into, but I was determined not to be like everybody else, if you will.
What was your first endeavor?
It was a clothing line, Goo Gogs. I thought I told you about that. Get up, get out, and get something. So I started it. I was at UT. And Outcast had the get up, get out and get something. My cousin came up, put it together as Goo Gogs. He went in the Navy. So I kind of took his idea, created some t-shirts, started wearing them around campus. People started asking me and I started selling them. We used to hang with the U of H. I'm an Alpha. So the U of H bros, they would have parties. I would set up. Then they would wear them in black and gold. And then the AKAs would say, I need them in pink and green. And I would get the pink and green for them. And so that was kind of how I grew. And then I also got my real estate license when I was 20. So I back in 1998, I got my real estate license.
What moved you to do that?
The same thing. I did that internship. I said, this is not God's will for my life. And I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do? I didn't know. I was an Alpha. I was the second vice president. So that meant I was in charge of the parties. So I went to go book the DJ for the party. And it was a guy named Byron Davis. His name, he went by Mr. DJ. Mm-hmm. And he had started a real estate company. So I went by his office to sign the contract for him to DJ our party. And I said, what do you do? He said, I do real estate. What's real estate? Didn't even know what real estate was.
Right.
And he said, well, I'm an apartment locator. He was doing apartment locating. And he kind of explained it to me. I said, well, what do you need to do? He said, go to some classes. That Christmas break, I think I got out of class, let's say December 10th. And I took my test on January 6th. And I had my real estate license. I just remember January 6th is my birthday. So,
happy birthday.
Yeah. So it's 2 parts of the test. And I failed the first part, but I passed the second. Mm-hmm. And then I passed it on January 7th. So I've been a real estate agent ever since then. So I was the hustle man in college. I was selling T-shirts. When you move from one apartment to the other, which every college student did every summer, write my name on the lease. So I was making $30,000, $40,000 a summer as a summer job, and just in 3 months from apartment locating.
Wow.
So something in my mind kind of clicked. Wow, I created my own check, my own, I didn't have to go ask nobody. I can spend as much of it as I want. Mm-hmm. I can do what I want with it. But then you also start realizing, well, the more I spend, the less I have to put back in the business to make more. And so everything I learned, I didn't get an MBA or anything like that. I just kind of learned on the fly. And then, of course, going back to the things my dad taught me, it really helped. First year Black Expo, we was $100,000 in the hole. How did I survive? I had an old house, Quail Run, $863 a month, 2 roommates paying me $350 a month. So that means all I had to spend was $163 a month. We gapping down all the bills, and my wife and my newborn baby was living in the house.
Wow!
So I had no overhead.
What made you think about renting out your rooms in your house?
Well,
and how'd you get your wife to go along with this?
Well, I'm blessed with one of the best wives in the world, I believe. She just always believed in me. I mean, I met her in college, and you talk about a woman that they talk about behind every good man is a good woman. Like, I used to go do these shows. I'm the big picture visionary guy. I'm not necessarily the most organized and structured. So I would be doing these shows and where are my largest? Where are my smalls? And this, she just started coming to shows with me. And next thing you know, everything is organized. Oh, we got 5 of these and we got this. Oh man, this is great. And she just kind of made herself an asset and valuable to me and never gave me no drama. And she used to just tell me, you're going to have a lot of money. You're going to be rich and you're going to do this. And I'd be like, at that point in time, I didn't see myself the way
I wonder what
she saw me.
I would love to ask her. Because she already told you that you was going to have something that you obviously did not have at that point. But what did she see?
I think part of it, certainly, I think you could say work ethic. Certainly the way I operated was a lot differently than other people. She told me she thought I was weird growing up. Like it's a funny story. I remember I don't know how much I need to share here. You're going to get me in trouble. But I guess I just always thought differently because I've never written a hot check. I've never seen a hot check being written. I've never experienced repos. A lot of the stuff that a lot of my tenants and most African Americans I know, that was just kind of normal. I didn't know that. And I remember one time, that was back when you mailed off to pay your bills. Mm-hmm. Let's say I had a credit card, and my daddy talked about credit cards like they were just demonic. Don't never use no credit card. And I had a credit card, so I was a little leery. And let's say the payment was due on the 1st, and it was the 2nd. And I had a heart attack because I thought my credit was really be messed up because I ain't really know how credit worked, but I just knew you were supposed to pay your bill. And I just like tripped. Oh my goodness, I got to pay this. Da, da, da. And then my wife was like, what are you talking about? You got 30 days before they put it on your credit. And da, da, da. So she kind of knew, kind of, if you want to say the hood way of operating. and she later told me that she thought I was trying to high side, kind of act like I was better than her or whatever.
Really?
So she kind of just saw that I thought differently and I was operating differently. I hate the term weird, but she would say I was a little bit weird.
Most people who are successful have a weird component.
Yeah.
I can't say what that weird is because to every person, weird. You're not what they would call the norm. The norm probably were the people who didn't pay their bills and didn't do repo. So that's common. And to see someone panic because they just think they late by one day, that's probably weird.
Yeah.
The average person probably like, I pay whenever, I'll be good.
Yeah.
You know? So she had an eye. I think when you go home, you should ask that question. Like, what was it? Yeah, I'm weird, but what else was it that you saw? Because, sometimes you can't see other people's vision.
Yeah.
And then you believe in yourself. Is it, I don't know another word to use. Is it arrogant belief in yourself that you can win?
I think other people would view it as arrogant. I think that's very functional. I think that God has created us all. Well, the Bible says he's created us in his image. He's God. He rules. He reigns. So therefore, and you got to understand, when you say image, God is a spirit. So that doesn't mean arms, legs.
Right. Absolutely.
That means, so if God is a dominator and a ruler, why shouldn't I be? But if you say that sounds
like,
yeah, exactly. Why
did he just compare himself to God?
Why if Barack Obama can be on top, I can't be on top? Why if Joe Biden can't be on top, but we'll take it off a race, why can't I be on top? But that sounds very arrogant. You know what I'm saying? And then we were talking about this offline, and when you start achieving certain things and you and gaining certain things and certain notoriety, then other people, it highlights what they're not doing. And then at that point, they have a choice, either to kind of hate because they feel insecure because they realize this is possible, but I ain't willing to do what it is. You do what it takes to get there. So they kind of try to tear you down.
Now, let me give y'all a little bit of what that conversation was. The understanding of being hyper-focused. And sometimes when you're so hyper-focused, you're what they would call, you're a high-functioning human being.
Yeah.
Right? And you got this thing in you to score W's all the time to a fault. And even if you fail, I'm kind of saying 2 points. But what I love about you, even if you fail, you don't let it keep you down long enough to let that failure get the best of you.
Yeah.
You just try again. Because like you just said, if somebody else would have did the Black Expo and was under six figures, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
I don't know how I've experienced a loss so low. What's the point of even trying again? The arrogance, I'm going to use that word, to believe next time I do it, I will succeed.
Yeah. I will say for me, I was blessed. I believe in God. I'm a Christian. I go to church. My pastor, and I think my pastor wrote a book called The 5 Watersheds of History and Theology, and he talks about how Christianity went from its original Jewish Asiatic roots to where it is now, where it's been Europeanized, because Europeans use Christianity to colonize the world. So a lot of our perspectives about Christianity is not necessarily sound biblical doctrine. All of that said, I'm a Christian. My pastor teaches us these things. And one of the things that when you read the Bible, and it just sounds crazy in today's society and world, if it says, obey those that rule over you for they watch for your soul, that would suggest that there's a shepherd that's looking out for you and you need to follow their lead and yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. He was one of the ones that really helped me because my pastor was a high school dropout. He now has 3 earned doctorate degrees, executive MBA from Duke, churches on 3 continents, a school in Kenya, and has written over 200 books. Now, in order to do that, you have to kind of be visionary. And he understood the way I was. I was just left brain. Either you got the money or you don't. When you got it, you do something. When you don't. And I never forget the first year we did Black Expo. I think he saw that we was about to lose money before I did, because I just thought the people was going to show up and we was going to be rich on Monday. First time he walked in Expo. Now, you remember, I'm 24 years old. I had only been in this city for 6 to 9 months, and I just did a citywide expo with the mayor and the Congress people and all 200 vendors and all these people and blah, 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 blah. And my pastor walked up to me and he said, Jerome, just know this. If you don't make one dime, you are a success. How many people would love to have done something like this? He said, you've just set yourself up for multi-million-dollar living for the rest of your life. I couldn't see that. I didn't understand the platform. I didn't understand the brand and how that would open up speaking engagements. I got contracts with government entities doing construction because of the connect. I wasn't looking at that. I was just looking at how many people come to the door. What's my gate? You know what I'm saying? We made $12,000 in it, and I got another $80 to spend. That was kind of the way that I was looking at it. But when I look at his life, that's the way he's lived. We got 3 church campuses. We got 221 acres of land. And all of that, it's never been done from the point of a surplus. It's kind of like you got to see it, you got to believe it, and then you got to drive it. And what drives you is you seeing that it's going to impact and help someone else for the better.
Do you know what your driver is? What is it in you that makes you, again, and I've probably asked this a different way, have you discovered the source in you that triggers you to do the stuff that you do? Knowing that you could experience a loss, by the way. Well,
ultimately, I will say that I would say it's God. I really do feel like I believe that God has created us all with a purpose, and I believe that purpose revolves around impacting the lives of others and helping others. I think that we have been falsely taught kind of a erroneous Europeanized version of Christianity where when you accept God, everything's going to work out. But when you look at Paul wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. And he was clearly a Christian, but when you look at his life, he was beaten to the point of death. And then they revive him and take him to the next city. He healed his wounds and go keep doing it again. Mm-hmm. Our society says, okay, you learn your lesson. Let's not preach over there. They may not like us. But true Christianity and true faith is saying, I'm going to do what God tells me to do and trust him to take care of me. Okay. So that was kind of always what kind of drove me, because I felt like that ultimately, I don't think God creates people to make money. I do think when you're doing what you're supposed to do, which is help others and share his gospel and things of that nature, that money will come. Mm. So I don't want to say, I hate to say stuff like God called me to do Expo or God called me to write a book. I think God gives you choices and options, and the choices and the options that you choose will determine. If I choose to go to medical school, I'm going to make a certain amount of money. That don't have nothing to do with God, really. Now, of course, yes, God woke me up. God gave me the energy. God, you can argue that however you want, but it's the choice I made to be a doctor that determines my salary. Okay. If I drop out and I decide that I'm gonna, I don't know, work at McDonald's, then that's the choice I made. That's not God's blessings on one life and not on another life. It's a choice that you made, Well,
all these different things that you do, entrepreneur and whatnot, what made you, and I'm going back to your podcast, what made you want to do this podcast and talk about money?
Well,
did something happen that you said, I got to talk about this?
Well, when I started Black Expo, honestly, I didn't really know what I didn't really understand exactly the impact that we can make. We started as a for-profit organization, and it was kind of like a weekend event, brings folk in, sell some stuff, make some money. But then when I went to the Indiana Black Expo, Indiana has the largest one in the country. At the time when I went, it was the second largest event in that state next to the Indianapolis 500, about an $80 million a year annual impact. And when I looked at their model, they were a nonprofit. And they had chapters throughout that state, and they did ongoing programming to really kind of help to build and develop the community. So for me, I then saw Black Expo less about how much money you can just make at this trade show this weekend, but a tool that could be used to empower others in the community. So the podcast is kind of a spinoff of that, because it provides kind of that educational component, and really more Black Expo's more about resources to help you build your business. The Money Tree is more about building wealth, real estate investing, as well as investing in building a business. Like this year at the Black Expo, we're going to do our coffee and conversation is called Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. So most of us think about, when we start in a business, we think about starting out the trunk, starting from the ground up. But if you could buy a house, you can buy a business. Just get your money right and go buy a Taco Bell, go buy a Cane's Chicken or whatever. And you have a business that's already set up and structured. You got cash flow, you got employees, and you got a salary for yourself. I never had a salary. I was always figuring it out. One of my mentors, his name is Sean Taylor. He actually started out, he was the former owner of the Houston Astros, a limited partner. And he started out with Taco Bell. I think he said his first acquisition was either 13 or 18 Taco Bells. And then he got up to 30 some, and then he sold them back to the company, and that's where he made all his millions. And what he kind of told me when I kind of went to him and I kind of started working with him, and he kind of started advising me, he said, well, Jerome, you got to think bigger. He said, it's great to help a business survive, but if that business only has one employee, they're limited in terms of their impact. But if you have a business that's creating jobs and providing for the community, you're in a better position. And then he kind of went down a list of my lawn guy. I helped put his kids through college. The guy that I hired to do my roofing. He was showing me the impact that he had made in all these people's lives because he had the resources to help them. So that's why I think entrepreneurship and business is so important, because it's kind of like it's a cyclical thing. It's not just about you. It's about what's the word? The network. If you have a restaurant, you got to get your chicken from somewhere. You got to get your utilities from somewhere. You got to hire people. You got, so it's a whole community, an ecosystem that's supported when a business thrives. And we don't have that many in our community that we control, that we can direct the resources towards efforts to help our community, if you will.
You mentioned the word mentor. How important were these mentors to you? And this is where I have failed in life. I never really had a mentor. I look back on my life and like, man, because I was such a solo player and I was just on my little mission. And I look back now and like, man, it would have really helped me secure some things better along the way if I had that mentor.
I'll push back and I'll say you have had mentors. Most times when we think of mentors, we think of them in a formal capacity. It's not like we write a contract and I'm going to talk to you on the 1st and the 15th and da-da-da. You told me about the guy in Dallas when you were in Carolina or wherever it was, and you called him and he
Rick
connected
Party.
you.
I did tell you that story. Yes.
That was your mentor. You didn't call him that, but you told me how he impacted your life. He guided you and yada, yada, yada. I'm glad you did. Okay. Is there a difference then?
I can name people who are impactful to my life. Without them, I'm not here having this conversation with you.
Yes.
I can pinpoint it to person one, and it's probably 2, 3 after that, maybe about a handful, maybe 5 of impactful people, but people that you could rely on for constant, you could get information from on a constant basis. It's like my people, like, I'm going to point you in the right direction. Just keep moving in that direction. And you just do your thing and you figure it out.
Well, let me say this. My mentors.
Shout out to all the impactful people in my life. You know who they are, and thank you so much, Rick Party, Yvonne Anderson.
For me, without my mentors, I would not be here, like you say. And for me, my mentors are the most valuable assets in my life. I have about 3 to 4 guys that I call, and I don't make any decision without talking to them.
Still to this day.
I'm a grown man. Now, the different ones do different things. So Dr. Charles Moody is one. Great guy out of Austin. He did my premarital counseling. He's just a brilliant mind. So anything from this person mad at me, they said this and da-da-da, he can say, well, Jerome, you tend to think this way, do this. Well, you can't respond this way, but this is what they're going to do and yada, 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 yada. Mm-hmm. The other one is my cousin, the one I told you about that mentored me in my real estate. I won't say his name. He's a private guy.
Gotcha.
But he helped me with my real estate stuff. And this will show you the impact of, so I'll tell the long story short. I bought my first house when I was 22. I thought I was the king of the world and knew what I was doing. By the time I was about 27, I had about 8 units and I'm going to be rich and nobody can't tell me nothing. By the time I was 30, I had like 4 foreclosures. Now, at the time when I started, he was there. Hey, you want to, and man, you old dude, what you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about, whatever. And then when I lost everything, he was like, you ready to learn now?
Wow.
And that's when I kind of came back around and started investing in real estate the way that I do now. And the first house that I bought, I never forget, I went out to go look at it, prospected, because he was buying all these little raggedy looking houses. And I wanted something that was a little prettier and cute. I didn't understand creating value as opposed to I just wanted to buy it and I ain't going to have to deal with that. So I went and looked. It was a little more raggedy than I normally did. And I went to go look around the right side of the house. I was attacked by a pit bull. I think I may have told you this story too. I ran, jumped in my car, went to the tax auction. I bidded on it. I bought the house for $10,100. When I went out to look at it, I went around the house where the pit bull was. There was a tree on the top of the house. It was totally crushed. Water had been that way for a while. The point is, had I saw that beforehand, I would have been like, this is too much work. But I was forced to deal with it. And he literally, I remember I went out to the house, my head was down. I was like, man, I just wasted all my, I think I had saved maybe 20,000, 25,000, something like that. So I spent 10, so I only had 15 left. And I felt like, man, I don't know what am I going to do with my life. And he hyped me up, Jerome, man, you give it to me for 10,000. Man, you done won. Da, da, da. So he could see that I didn't really know what I was doing. He literally showed up every single day for the next 6 weeks. Work with the contractors, taught me studs, plywood, moisture barrier, how to shingle, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And when I got it done, I was literally on my last dime. And my wife called my son, I think was a baby. She said, we need some diapers. I ain't had no money. And the lady down the street who had been saying she wanted to rent it, she came down and gave me $900 for her deposit. Wow. I took that money, bought some diapers, and that's when it kind of started to click. But my point is, he was there for me. Now, this goes back to what you were talking about wealth. Why was he able to help me? Because he himself was good. Who else can take 6 weeks off their job? His job was real estate. He owns hundreds of houses or whatever, a lot of houses, I don't know how many, but he was in a position where he saw someone that he could impact. It did impact him financially, you know what I'm saying? Because there was stuff he could have been doing, but he was helping me, but he saw something in me but he was able to help me. So he's just probably, I tell people he's the smartest guy I know. I primarily have him advise me on wealth, money, but he's also kind of intuitive about people. So when I do my Jerome Love focus, walk by you, and then you say I'm mean or whatever, then I say, okay, what should I have said? What should I have done? So he kind of advised me there. And then, of course, my pastor, like I say, my pastor's, he's a very busy man. I gave you his dossier, so I don't like to just call him for anything. I'll call him on big issues or spiritual issues. And then I have other people that's just.
How important do you think it is for other people so they can move along their positions in life to have a mentor? And I think it's important. I think that, again, I think that's personally, I think that's where I failed. I could be much further down the street. Now, somebody else may look at my life and say, I don't know what you're talking about, but.
I think it for me, it's been critically important.
Yes,
and
sir.
I will say I wouldn't be where I'm at today without these people.
Yes, sir. Gotcha.
And if I was here, I would have a whole bunch more scrapes, bruises, and scratches, but you're a testament that you can make it without having those formal mentors. But I guess I think if we would ask a little bit further, you would probably say there were a whole bunch of situations that probably could have been avoided had you had a different perspective
You know
on
what? No.
No?
No,
Okay.
it's like the impactful people in my life led me directly where I needed to go.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm lucky in that.
Yeah.
But when I hear you talk of these great mentors, because we do the comparison contrast in life.
Yeah.
Because I have homes, I want 100 homes.
Yeah.
But I have a fear factor on what that really means and the work that it entails
Yeah.
to have 100. So sometimes having that mentor to pump you up
Yeah.
and get you going is what you need. Sometimes when you don't have that in your ear to help you get pumped up, it's hard for you. But I can't take anything away from the impactful people. If I take away the impactful people, I have nothing. But I do believe, like, there's no way, like, I can't register for a mentor.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you find a mentor? And I actually, as a grown man, I actually say this to myself some days, like some days I'll probably leave here and be thinking about mentorship all day long, But how do you go about,
Well, and let me say, I wrote in my first book, I call them mentors, and then I call them tormentors. So tormentors are mentors are the good examples, but then there are tormentors. So people that give you bad advice and da da da. And what I say in the book,
it just hit me in my head when you said, okay, I didn't get it at first. I got it.
So
Tormentor.
what I argue or what I say is that you can have formal and informal mentors. So you can.
And now I probably have that.
Yeah. So you can have a formal mentor, meaning, hey, Hatter, I like what you do. Can you help me? I want to be in the radio industry. Can you help me?
Right.
I don't know you from Adam. I asked you a specific thing for a specific reason. Now, you may say, okay, my fee is $250 an hour. Okay, great. I'm going to do 5 hours a month or whatever. You could call that a coach, but in essence, you're a mentor too. Now you're being paid, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. So, and I just say that because I wrote that in my book, and man, you know how many emails I get. Can you mentor me? And I try to help as many people as I can, but I can only help so many.
I like the way that you put a fee with the mentorship. And I think that the other flip side of people is that they think that they should get information for free.
Yeah, because they want to pick your brain for a minute. I got a quick question.
But they don't want to have to pay for that information.
Yep. And I personally,
I'm glad you actually said that too, because that could also be a part of the mentorship too. If you really want this information from me, pay me for that time.
Yep. And I think that it's indicative of the way they think if they like what we was talking about earlier, I won't say the dynamic, but you was talking about the dynamic between the two parties, one that wants you to do something where they going to make some money, but then they don't want to break bread with you.
Yes, sir.
It's kind of the same thing. You need me to help you to get this contract or learn how to build housing, do these things that's going to make you a whole bunch of money. But you can't give me $150 just for an hour of my time, $250. For me, I used to do a lot of stuff for people like that for free because I really thought I could help people. But what I found is when people don't pay for stuff, they don't value it. And very few people are going to implement the things that you share with them anyway. So it's kind of like, if I'm going to waste my time, I'm at least get paid for it. So
man, salute. I ain't even mad at that.
That's your formal mentor. Then the informal ones, like I say, are just kind of the people like the gentleman in Dallas. You know him. You call him if you need him. He's been there for you, but it's no formal type of relationship. You could also call that like a mom, a dad, a uncle, those people that you call for advice. You've looked up to them. You see how they live their life. And the last thing I'll say about that is I always say, KRS-One said, if you don't know the history of the author, then you don't know what you've read. And I always say, if you don't know the history of the mentor, then you don't know, basically, you need to know what they've done to determine
if they even need to be mentored here in the first place.
Exactly.
We knew exactly what you mean. You didn't have to explain that. You were very clear.
Yeah.
I like that.
So.
Well, that is a very interesting perspective. Because I think when we think mentorship, we always think free. So I appreciate you even saying that. So I don't know if along the way I should have paid somebody to get.
Yeah.
But like I said, I did have people who, for them, they paved the way for me to be whom I am.
Well, I will say this. I had to learn that because I used to think Like I ask you for something, you give it to me. My mind, look at God. It didn't cross my mind. What can I do for Him? And it wasn't until I burned a few bridges, some of which I have restored at this point.
Really?
Where then I had to say, ooh, what value if they're not here? The little $150 or whatever the. Most of the times it wasn't direct money that wasn't paid, but it was just little things that they asked me for, and then I try to charge for it, and then they like, after all I done done for you, you can't give me this. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's what a good mentor is. I had one very close to me who called me to the carpet straight up and called me a sorry, this, that, and the other.
Wow.
And I had to just sit there and take it. And then I also had to just sit there and reflect. Maybe I was right. Maybe it was mine and I could have charged him for it. But what does he mean in my life? And why didn't I think about how can I do something for him after he's already done all of this stuff for me?
Yes,
it wasn't like he asked me for something before he did something for me first. You know what I'm saying? Mm. So then I had to reflect and say, okay, you got to start being more thoughtful of who's valuable in your life and how you could help them and not just feel like you being blessed when they doing for you.
I like that. I like that. What other? Give me one of your biggest failures, other than I lost money on this thing called the Black Expo the first time, where you said to yourself, that was not successful. And that could be anything. It could be a friendship, a relationship. It could be business. But when you look back on it, you like, ugh. I would like to replay that.
I'm going to give an overall, not an actual specific incident. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about, that whole focus thing. While I do know there's nothing wrong with being focused, I do know that it can alienate some people and it could, upset some people. And there are a lot of people that probably wouldn't say very kind things about me. Because they're
get on the bus and ride with me, man. We riding together.
Yeah. But it's kind of like I wish that I was more in tune with other people's feelings and emotions. Like I'm the type of person, if you make me mad, I'm gonna say, Hattie, that was jacked up. Why you do that? You know what I'm saying? And then I'm also not gonna understand if you get mad at me because what I said was true. I didn't understand because that's the way my dad was. I knew I'm supposed to make all A's and B's. If I made a C and I got a whooping, I got cussed out or whatever it was, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't no please and thank you or nothing. This is what it was. And now that's a good thing and it's a bad thing because it makes you this
black and white.
Yeah. I'm this callous individual. Like I never forget. I told my son this story. I've told several people. It's kind of like one of those things. I'm not mad, but it's kind of humorous now. My son's into basketball now, so I'm all into trainers and going on this. And my mind, he's going to be in the NBA. Why? Because in my mind, I should have been in the NBA. Now, but what happened? So I'll never forget. My daddy had some clippers, and that was when you was cool too cool. My daddy ain't gonna cut my hair. I'm gonna cut my own. So I'm trying to cut my hair look cool at school. I was in 8th grade, and I went to this Spurs basketball camp. I'm from San Antonio, and they wanted me to go to this more advanced camp because they said I had some potential. It was gonna be like $200, whatever the amount, and my daddy had agreed to pay, which was a miracle. So I'm using his clippers, and I dropped them, and I broke his thing. And my daddy said, there go your goddamn camp. It was so funny. Now, I was mad at the time, but that was the way I was raised. You know,
it's hard, though.
Yeah, but you would say, oh, his kid's potential and he didn't tap and da-da-da-da. But my daddy didn't see it that way. All he saw was, I'm going to have to buy me some new clippers. And I'm not ready to spend those $60, $80 on your camp when I got to spend $20 on these clippers. And you shouldn't have been messing with my clippers.
Was your dad a hard man? When you think back on it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
The older I got, I realized how loving my dad was. My dad would come down, like when my son was born, we were doing a lunch and learn at the city of Houston. My wife said, I'm going into labor. I called my dad at 11 o'clock. My daddy was at my door 2:30 with a bag of hot dogs and Bluebell ice cream because it was my youngest son, so I had 3 other ones. So he stayed at the house, took care of the kids. It's like, go take care of your wife. You know, he was all about family. He was but he was no nonsense. Everybody knew 10 o'clock meant 9:45, you know. And, you know, they knew that. And if you was there at 10:01, he was going to say something very direct to you. He wasn't going to smile. He don't hate you, but it's just like he let you know.
Are you better now? Because I know we've had this conversation off camera, but do you feel better now? Because you said you were very direct and probably hurtful to some people. Do you feel like...
I think you
are because I've never heard anything bad about you. It's always interesting to hear people because you hear things, but you don't hear them because when people see you, they respond to you differently.
Yeah,
that's the world I live in.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. But so I guess the question is, do you think I'm better off? Or what? Tell me the question.
Do you feel like you're a better person? Because it seems like you feel like you might have hurt some feelings, rubbed some folks the wrong way.
The question is,
as you get older, you like to think that you're better.
The question is, how do you define better to me? And what I mean by that is, I do think that the successes I've had in business and the accomplishments and things that I have is a direct result of being no nonsense and super focused.
Got you.
But if you say better is making everybody happy and love you, you know, then no, I'm not better. But I think if you spend all your time trying to please everybody and make them happy, then you wouldn't be able to do the things that you do. And you just kind of come to a point where there was a point, and I know we probably short on time, but I had messed up one relationship with a person that was very substantial in my life, helped me start Black Expo and this, that, and the other. And then I was like, what is wrong with you? And then I went overboard. And so the next young lady I brought in, we started a company together. I did everything she wanted. I pleased and thank you. Oh, I couldn't, I was just overboard. She couldn't handle it. And then didn't end very well. And it was just like, what do I do? This one, I was just straight Jerome Love. This one I said, please and thank you. Mm-hmm. I opened the door. I rubbed on the shoulder, called her precious. And then she turned up. She took that as a sign of weakness. Mm. So then what I had to kind of learn is, ain't no rights and wrongs. It ain't no blacks and whites. You got to evaluate. The first one, I should have did all the please and thank you because she could handle it. The other one, that emboldened her and she couldn't handle it. She wasn't emotionally stable. So you just kind of got to evaluate, people and determine who's worth the investment, who's not. And then you also got to just understand that people change over time, It just is what it is. So thing about life, this thing called life, we like to try to say, I figured it out. Now this is what I do.
No, it's ever changing.
It's always changing.
It's ever changing.
Always changing.
And I salute you on that because that's a great answer. You're ever changing.
Yep.
And hopefully there's a lot of love and peace within that person and that he gives to other folks.
Yep.
That's what you're... Now, the Black Expo, we got to talk about that.
I was about to jump in and say something about that. So this year we are celebrating 20 years and I'm really excited about it. May 19th through the 21st in Houston. Friday, we have our corporate luncheon with Irvin Magic Johnson. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay.
We've had a rich history over the years. I was looking at... one of the flyers, you remember the picture when you was on the mic like this, when you did the handle your business, use some. And because we've been kind of gathering all of our historical photos and we're kind of doing these throwback Thursdays and stuff. And I was like, man, I remember the first year you came out, we did some type of hip hop summit or something. And it's just been a wonderful ride, just looking at all these pictures, and a lot of people have passed away now. And then it's just amazing. And then when you start seeing some of the business, like the Breakfast Club was at the Expo first year.
Wow.
They started the year before us, but then the first year Expo, they were there. And now to see where they are, companies like Nightlight Pediatric Urgent Care, they were the first after-hours pediatric clinic in the city of Houston, really, I think in the state, owned by 3 black women.
Wow.
Grew to, I think, 12, 13 locations. 180 some employees, Forbes magazine, and they were purchased 2 years ago by a company out of Florida.
Wow.
You know, it's so many of these stories. People that Ron Reynolds, you know, he was one of my first board members. And then now he's state representative and president of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus. I remember when State Representative Turner, I would call him if I had some issues with the state, and now he's the mayor, you know.
Sir.
So when you do what I do and you see people go from one place to the other, you really kind of feel like you're making an impact. So I'm really excited, man. I'm really excited about
Can
all.
Anybody still participate in this?
Anybody can participate. If you want to get a vendor booth, we do have booth space available. TexasBlackExpo.com has all the details. If you want to get a ticket to the luncheon or a table at the luncheon for all the corporations, got to give a shout out to HEB. HEB was there from the beginning.
Okay.
I never forget. You know me, like I'm always trying to figure it out. I went to the marketing department and they told me no. And then I said, well, let me go to community affairs. They told me no. And then I went to the foundation and they told me no. So then I went to another event and I met somebody from, I don't know, community affairs. And they said, well, we're going to be hiring this guy who's going to be coming in. The guy had moved here from Indianapolis. So he knew how big the Indiana Expo was. That was James Harris.
So he's already tapped in.
Yeah. Director of Supply Diversity. He pushed it, got us on board, and they've been with us for 20 years.
Wow.
So it's a lot of opportunities, man. We have our business sessions on Friday, as well as at the expo as well. We're going to have all kinds of workshops and seminars to help people to build their wealth, build their business. So it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. And, it's just, I don't know, surreal to see me, like I talk about other people growing, I'm looking at myself growing, this 24-year-old that really didn't know what we were doing, what he was doing. And now a grown man. My daughter was a baby first expo. She's a freshman in college now, so, but yeah, it's been a great experience. And then seeing the impact you're also making in your kids. My daughter, 3 months into college, she's freshman council president now of the business school at Howard University.
Because the stuff that she learned from home. Yeah, I be seeing you post her like crazy. I can tell, super proud dad over there.
Sir,
man. You
yes,
get
sir.
your brag on the regular. Your Instagram is for bragging and bragging only.
Last story, I know I got a ton of them, but what I used to do when I had my books. People do the online books now. I used to do the physical ones. So I would tell my kids, y'all set a booth up at the expo and I give you a percentage of the profits. And my second daughter, Jada, she would be out hustling books. And she went to my photographer, one of my frat brothers, Charles Epps, shout out Boogie. And she tried to sell him a book. And he said, he told her, I already have that book. And my daughter looked at him and said, you can buy two.
Wow.
So she like was always on her money, man, but I'm really proud, man, of my kids and the work that we've done with Black Expo. And of course, it would not be possible without legends in the city, such as yourself, that embrace me, open their arms, and all the sponsors, all the vendors, everybody that supported us. It's not about me. I wouldn't be here without people like yourself and all those that have supported me along the way.
Well, congratulations again, man. Let me say that. For the books and all that, is there a website they can go to? I know you pushing Black Expo, but
the Black Money Tree. The Black Money Tree. That's where I used to do it on JeromeLove.com. That's where all my speaking engagements, all that stuff. But now everything's under the Black Money Tree. Okay. So I got 4 books. I got my entrepreneurship book, my leadership book. I got a student success book, and they're all under the moniker of Get Up, Get Out, and Get Motivated. So that's a play on my first business. Get up, get out, and get something.
I got you.
And then the last book was The Black Money Tree, Closing the Wealth Gap, How to Create Wealth Within African American Communities by Investing in Real Estate. So that was the book we wrote once we launched the Black Money Tree podcast. That's at theblackmoneytree.com.
And let me also say thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, no problem.
Too.
No problem.
I was driving around one day. I called the person that helped you, your facilitator, in getting all the folks together. I'm like, man, I want to get Jerome on my podcast because I know him. Yeah. But I don't know him.
Yeah.
So I was really just wanting to get to know you better. I know you got the Black Expo. You like, great, I can get on there. But I just wanted to know you and hear your story. Yeah. So it was really fun just talking to you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Final thing. What is success to you?
Success to me, I think, is just really the ability to be able to help others. That's it. Because if you're able to help others, that means that you good yourself. You know, that's the way I look at it. It's kind of like, you know, they say it's more blessed to give than to receive. Most people say, well, I'd rather somebody give to me. But if I'm giving to you, I'm not going to give to you unless I'm good first.
That's right.
You know, so I think that that's what it's about, being able to impact and help others.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jerome Love. Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you.